Hello guys, you are welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna Mosefina and we are still talking about dyscalculia, but this time around, like I mentioned in the previous video, we are going to focus on visual spatial awareness or visual spatial skills. This is one of the aspects of dyscalculia that is usually overlooked. In fact, this even affects all the other learning challenges, but then for dyscalculia, I want us to take time and explain it because when I start to explain, you understand why I'm saying this. And so, if you have not subscribed, please do not forget to do so so that you can follow this because it's going to be a flow. And special thanks to all those who have been, commenting and those who give me personal feedbacks. Thank you so much. You guys are the reason why I am motivated to keep doing this. And so, let's learn or let's move on and see how visual spatial awareness manifests in children. And so basically, to make you understand visual spatial awareness before we talk about how it manifests, it is how an individual or how we interact with the space around us. Okay, so how we relate with the space around us, the objects, the position, the distance, all those things are very important. Now, as I have mentioned earlier, dyscalculia is basically about numbers, but then everything around us involves numbers, whether you like it or not. Everything around us is an aspect of numerical information that you need. And so one of the ways that it manifests in children, and before I actually even talk about children, mind you, like I said, it can also manifest in adults because you were first a child before you became an adult, and probably this was not noticed, and so you have grown up with it. Okay, and so one of the things that you will notice how it manifests, one of the things you notice is that that child would have issues aligning numbers, and so you give them a number line, and they cannot understand how you've arranged it, so they do the same thing. They find it difficult to align the numbers. And if they are doing, let's say, they're arranging numbers to tens, hundreds, thousands, and you've given them the figures, okay, so arrange them under it, you have confused them. And so they might end up putting the tens under the hundreds under the, just placing numbers. It's a challenge for them. And so this affects calculation. So you'd give them very basic numeracy, very basic number, addition. Okay, so add maybe 35 by 6, and you have put the words separately, put them together. You have just messed up with your brain. Now, I want to mention this again before I continue, that it does not mean low intelligence. It is just how the brain processes numerical information. And so if you have encountered anybody, any child that is struggling with maths, that is struggling with numbers, it doesn't mean that child is dumb. Because the child may be struggling with numbers, but probably will be very good at reading or good at drawing, good at painting. So I'm just mentioning these things to help us know when to support the child, know when the child is being lazy and when the child is actually struggling. Okay. Now, another thing you will notice is that that child has challenges recognizing shapes. Anything that has to do with graphs, they are not able to read the graphs. You give them a bar chart, you give them a pie chart, and everything is just a lot in their head. And you see, usually you would look at them and you don't see the struggle they are going through. But if you pay attention, you realize that the child is trying, but there's a difficulty. Now, another thing you realize is that if you give the child a visual data or visual data and you are asking them to extract the numerical information from it, that child would struggle. And so you're giving them like a bar chart and you're telling them read which one is more, which one is less. You have worried that child because already they get overwhelmed when there is multiple information. So you give them, let's say, word problem, those days. I'm pretty sure you still do that in schools. And you give a word problem and then you have to read. Amma has 5 apples. She was asked to give 2 to Kweku. And now Yaya has taken 1. How many apples does Amma have? Hey, this is too much for that child. Or you have drawn a bar chart and you are asking the child, which one is more, which one is less. It is too much for the child. So if you give them a visual data and you tell them to extract the numerical information, it is a challenge. If you have given them multiple math problems, asking them to pick the answers from it, it is a struggle. Now, like I said, as I'm saying this, I want you to sit back and look at that child that you are dealing with. Look at the children you experience. Which of them usually is struggling with these things? Or let's even sit back and take our minds to when we were in class. Some of our classmates, which of them did you realize was really struggling with this, and the teacher can explain and explain and explain, but still comes back to that struggle. That child is not dumb, or that child, was not dumb. The brain was just not processing what you were saying well. Now, another thing you would notice is that the child is either reversing or rotating numbers. Now, when I talk about rotating numbers, what do I mean? If you give the child a 6, so you've written 6 on the board, so just write 6 in your book, the child will end up writing 9. So the child has rotated it. It's not that the child does not see what you have written, but that is how the brain is processing it. So they are seeing 6, like you have written 6, but they are seeing it as a 9. And so that is the rotation of numbers, not the reversal. You can write 36 on the board and ask the child to write 36 in the book. The child will end up writing 63. If you've written 45, they'll write 54. And so every number you give them, they end up reversing or rotating it. Now, if you have noticed this in a child, it means that it is not intentional. The child's brain is just struggling to process what you have written. Now, another challenge that they also face is understanding left and right. In fact, some adults still suffer that. They still struggle with that. Sometimes I end up saying, "Oh, driver, when I'm in the boat, let's take the left." And I'm like, "Wait, did I say left? No, please, right." I am sure most of us experience this, left and right. Now, some children with dyscalculia also end up struggling with this thing. And so you're giving that child a direction. And you're like, "Oh, go to the room and turn left. My book is there." And the child goes and comes and says, "My, what did you say?" Like, "Hey, you dear." Relax. Relax. It is a struggle. If you have noticed that child is consistently having issues with the whole left and right thing, it is a struggle, and you have to find a nicer way to support or help that child. And now to the final aspect of all this. I'm pretty sure you wish I would not end this, but then let's just quickly wrap up. So now you also notice that such children who have dyscalculia, usually will struggle with measurements. And so you ask them, okay, so use a half cup of this, use a quarter of that, use a teaspoon. That's too much information. Either they under measure or they over measure, and then they struggle with time. Time is number, and so you have a clock and you tell them what is the time. What even makes it worse is when the whole clock has no numbers on it and you're expecting them to know that, okay, this is quarter, this is 6. That is too much for them. They also struggle with directions, and so you give them directions and it's a whole lot in their head. So you would send them, and that child goes and comes back and tell you, "I didn't find it." Maybe, "Oh, go to the next block, you'd see it." That is too much information. The child may end up going and coming back. And oh yes, there are some people you hear them say, "Oh, I've lived in this neighborhood for so long, but I still get lost." That is another aspect of it. Yes. And so there's a lot more examples, but then I think we would take a break here. If you want more, do well to subscribe, okay? And I would really love to hear you your comments. Let's engage in the comment section. If you have ever experienced this, or if you yourself you struggle with this, let's talk more about it. Now in the next episode, I'm going to give more real life examples so that it makes this easier to understand, because some people may see this as too much technical, but then if I give real life examples, you will get it. And probably a movie that we all know about, that we all love, we are going to take our time to explain this. I want this to become so real to you so that you are able to support that child, okay? Because really we have all one way or another experienced as people, and we felt they are dumb, but they are not. And so thank you so much if you have watched up to this point. Like I said, subscribe if you have not, so that you do not miss out on my next episode. Thank you so much. Lots of love from me to you all. Mwah.